YouTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a bookish update. So I finished The Three Musketeers the other day. I feel very proud of that, and I did notice on Goodreads that was a book that I started in April 2017, and I'm finishing it in April 2025. So I thought that was, or 2018, I think it was actually. So I thought that was kind of funny that I would still finish it in the same month, just a different year. Now, I wasn't reading the book the whole time. Like, I just put the book down and then decided to pick it up again. So it didn't take me like literally years to read it, because this is really, I put it on pause and put it back on the shelf and then started reading it again. Even this time, because when I first picked it up, again, it was kind of in a slow part where it felt like it was dragging a little bit, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going or not. I kept going back and forth with that, so finally I did finish. Obviously I did finish it. I did pick it up and continue and finish it, and I'm very pleased with that. It was fun. I mean, it has its faults, and I didn't love everything about it. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, and I will do the review of it soon. What I've been doing is basically making sure I get my reviews in the order that I read the books, because I'm very behind. I prefer to do it that way, even though it might not 100% be smart, because then I'm not going to remember everything from the previous books. But it's just that way I can be organized and efficient with writing out my reviews. So yeah, So I have not picked up Our Mutual Friend or The Recognitions again, but I did start reading The Shadow Reborn, and I have read, when I first picked it up, I read the first chapter, but it was I don't think it was the best time, because I think I was reading it when I was, not 100% comfortable with my reading position I was in, and then also, I only had a little bit of time to read. I think sometimes when it's a big, long book, or a book that's dense, if I only get a few minutes, 5 minutes to 15 minutes of reading time, then I can't get into it as easily. Occasionally, yeah, I was fine yesterday during my 15-minute break to start reading again, to read a little bit. I think because I had already started it that morning, but anyway, I am on chapter 6 right now, and I can't really talk about it. It's hard for me to talk about it, because unless you've read the other 3 books, which I feel I want to look to see if I can get recaps of the first 3 books, because they're so long, and I'm not going to reread them. All 3 books. It's not, the series is long, and each individual book is super long, so I, don't want to have to go back and reread all 3 books, of the first 3 books. But, like I say, the only thing I wanted to talk about is how so Rand al'Thor is the chosen one. He is the Dragon Reborn, and you have, some people are scared of him and treat him like this all-powerful being that automatically is just going to go evil, because he's destined to. And then you have the Aes Sedai, who are super hard on him and pushing him and saying, you have to do this, and they don't like that he's, they seem to forget that he's still a human. They're very pushy with it, and you have to do this, you have to learn your magic, and of course, at the same time, they're in the middle of a war, and there's this evil, they're worried about the Dark One and everything. And so it's on the one hand, you can't blame them, but at the same time, I feel really bad for Rand, because there's either people that are afraid of him or people that are pushing him. And then meanwhile, his friends who got dragged into this, Matt and Perrin, who are they did not, ask for this, to ask to be Terravine, and they're in denial about it. At least Matt is, and they are been put on this burden. But what I don't like is that it's they're blaming Rand, which he has no control over this. He's still learning to control his powers, and they're automatically assuming that he is responsible when crazy stuff happens. Like, right away something crazy happened, and they're just, oh, it's Rand's fault. The Dragon Reborn. I'm gonna go yell at him, talk to him and stuff. And it's just like, you guys, thankfully, Perrin finds something crazy happen to him, to Rand, and he's immediately like, oh, wait, this is still Rand. But yeah, I don't like how everyone's on his case all the time. But I also don't like how they're, like, so afraid of Moiraine. Like, of course, we, as the reader, we get to experience Moiraine and are in her head, and we know that she's not some heartless sorceress or whatever. She's been hardened and has this weight. She has to carry this burden. So she's not going to be all, like, she's not going to coddle them. But I don't like how they're automatically afraid of her and, like, thinking that she's a puppet master. But of course, I'm the reader, and I have information that the characters don't. But yeah, this is very, like, fantasy is so, once I get into it, it's so easy to read, and I want to keep going. Also, so I did attempt to start As I Lay Dying by Faulkner. I debated about starting this because this spring I want to read the Vonnegut book, Galapagos. Like, I want to read that one for the springtime, but I might save that one for the summer as well. But anyway, I debated about picking, either bringing that one with me or this one. And when we went out for breakfast this morning, and it's not like I was going to get a lot of reads. I was waiting until our food got here because I didn't want to immediately take out my phone. I kind of wanted to, I have a book, let me read my book instead. Like, that's the eternal debate I always go over my head. Do I read my book, or, because phone would be easier than picking out a book. Like, let's face it, it's easier to, look up stuff on the internet, stare at your phone screen, look up, look at your apps and look stuff up on the internet. It's just, it's so easy to do. But I took out my book, but then I didn't even get a lot read anyway. I only read, like, a page or two before our food got there, because that place is very quick service anyway. So I don't have really anything to say about it. But I do think, what I noticed is, okay, so I still cannot remember what this edition is called, but there's these Great American Literature editions or something. The books are black. They're big books, and they'll have an American author, and then all their books in that big book. And, when I read books, like, if I attempt to read books like that, like the Barnes & Noble leather-bound books, it's hard because it's all the author's work in one big book. So the print is minuscule, the book is physically huge, so it's a lot, and it's hard to read. It's not comfortable. And I attempted to read Faulkner's work in that, and I didn't like it. I couldn't get into it. And so I finally decided that I'm going to give William Faulkner another chance. And this does look a little bit easier to read. Like, the print is decent, is a good size, and it's a smaller book. Like, I feel like it's just easy. It'll be easier to read this and to get into this. So I'm also reading that. I did read I'm making progress in Blackwater. And it's so weird whenever they mention Mary Love, the patriarch, and something happens to her, is all I'm going to say. And it's weird every time they bring her up. And I keep thinking she's going to show up again. And it's always like, and everything's kind of in a good place with this family. I mean, they're up to World War II right now. And I keep wondering, are they going to find out about Eleanor in her being like a sea monster, sea creature type, like a creature from the Black Lagoon type. Like, I keep thinking, are they going to find out? Is that going to be revealed? Is she going to be exposed? I keep anticipating that moment. But what's going to be weird is because I've been reading this book so long, it's going to be weird. I always feel weird if I've been with a story for so long and I finally get to the end. It's so weird because I feel like I get, first of all, I start like getting like twitchy, because it's just, I don't know, that's my reaction, my physical reaction when I'm finishing the book, and I keep thinking, I'm done? I shouldn't be done. There's more to read, or it's not over, and and it's not. I mean, there's still a little bit of the, oh, I love this book. It's almost fun. I want to be with these characters again, but it's also just weird because I've been reading for so long, and I keep thinking, I'm actually done with it. That's how am I done with it? It's hard to explain. Like, I don't know if anyone else can relate to that feeling of, when you've been reading something for so long, whether, I'm not talking books that you are like so relieved to be done with. I'm talking about books that you do enjoy, but you finished it finally because even though it's so long, it's such a long book, and it's like, you're just surprised that you're finally done with it, and you finally finished it, and it's weird because you keep thinking you're not done with it yet. I have to keep going. But yeah, it's up to World War II right now, and well, actually, World War II just ended, and like the family's is in an actually good place with each other. Like, there's not as much tension. I mean, Mary and her biological mother, Eleanor, there's still no affection there, but she has grown to form a relationship with her father, with Oscar. But that, so it's just the story is so good, and it's funny because, I'm thinking, so I know Mike from Mike's Book Review said that there was not going to be there isn't a lot of horror, there's more family drama than horror elements, but there is, and you almost forget about the horror elements until something happens. But it's definitely more drama than horror. It's more, about life. Which, that reminds me. So, I am also listening to Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz. And I was introduced to Dean Koontz because my coworker Patty was saying that Dean Koontz is a lot like Stephen King. So, I, looked on Libby for any of his works. And this one seems, Odd Thomas seems the most interesting so far. It's like this guy who's kind of like, he can see spirits, like, he can see dead people. And he kind of has psychic abilities in a way, like a sixth sense or something. And there's this guy that shows up in their community that he feels like bad vibes from. He feels like he's creepy and everything, and there's something about him. So him and Odd and his girlfriend decide to, like, keep an eye on him. They tell the police, because the police has, they're used to Odd and used to him being right about these things. And he learns that something might be going down on a certain date, and they might need to stop it before it happens, before this guy does anything. And so he's basically following him around and making sure that no one goes into the place where he suspects this bad event is going to happen. So far it's really interesting. I definitely, I'm like curious. I want to know what's going to happen. What this, is this guy as creepy as Odd thinks is on, right? And it is funny, like, Elvis is one of the ghosty encounters that he hangs out with, that follows him around. That's really funny. And Elvis is probably the most famous ghost that's mentioned in the story so far. And I think I don't know if it's just a trilogy or a series, but we will find out. But with that being said, it just remind me that my coworker might like Blackwater. Because that also gives Stephen King vibes. So I have to remember to tell her about it when I see her. If she's working on Monday, I'll have to tell her about it. And I know that McDowell also wrote a book with Tabitha, King's wife. So yeah, I'll have to remember to tell Patty about that. Like maybe write myself a note or something. But anyway, okay, so that's what my current reads. Let me haul. I got some books to haul for you guys. First we have. So this is the book I got at Books A Million. So I was feeling like, let me get a fantasy book instead, because last time I did not get a fantasy book. This is Dragonfall, and in this story, the dragons were seen as gods, but then the humans betrayed them, and the dragons want revenge. And this one woman, this one thief, she comes across this artifact that leads. She steals this artifact that leads her to a dragon, and the dragon is trying to he's trying to stop her to save his dragon kind. But it looks like they're gonna form a bit of a bond, maybe a romantic bond. So this was one of those situations where, like, I feel like sometimes I let Goodreads reviews influence me a little too much. I mean, on the one hand, Goodreads is helpful for, like, if I give myself multiple choices and I need to narrow it down because I'm trying to stick to a certain amount of books. I don't go crazy and spend my money ridiculously, and stick to my budget. And and I just don't want to, even though, Gibbons is a used bookstore, so the prices are, cheap. I still don't want to get, like, 10, use that as an excuse to get 10, 20 books. So I like a Goodreads to, narrow it down a little bit. With that being said, I feel like sometimes books that I might not give a chance, but it might turn out that I actually like them, I could potentially like them, I don't give them a chance because a Goodreads reviewer for them, it might be a bad book. And there's no guarantee that every person on Goodreads, I'm going to have that, even if we like similar books, or they enjoy a book that I'm thinking about buying, does not mean that we're going to feel the same way about it. And I think that I think it's kind of a risk. Now, with Books A Million, the problem is I'm trying to not only just stick to one book, but also it's more expensive. And, like, lately, the last couple times I've been to Books A Million, like, Confederacy of Dunces I got from Books A Million. I ended up DNFing it. And it was one of those books that was mentioned on Gilmore Girls. I thought it was a book that, Rory read, but I think it was actually probably a book that was mentioned on Gilmore Girls, but not necessarily one that Rory herself read. And oh, wait, actually, no, it was on the new version, the new list that is more up to date. And I'm just like, I ended up DNFing that book because I have a complicated relationship with satire. I don't mind satire in the form of a movie or TV show, but satire in the book form, I just can't get into as easily. And I ended up DNFing it. And so when it comes to Books A Million, I want to be careful. And I don't want to I want to at least enjoy the book. Even if I end up, like, what was that one? Time travel book. There was a time travel book I got from Books A Million, and I read the whole thing and I enjoyed it, but I ended up giving it to Gibbons, donated it, but I still read the whole thing. I didn't DNF it, and I enjoyed it. So that one I got lucky. I mean, so I just don't want to I want to at least want to read the whole thing and not get rid of it. So I gotta be careful with Books A Million and make sure it's a book that I'm gonna enjoy and not want to DNF. So it was, I was deciding between this and some other books, and the weird thing is I have a very complicated relationship with romantasy because I don't want to read books where the romance is the main plot point. But then again, there are some books like ACOTAR, and that I really enjoyed and thought were great. I like the world and everything, and the characters and all that. But that is considered romantasy. And so don't know if I'm anti-romantasy or not, but I also don't want to be afraid to get into romantasy, enjoy it. I just want it to be a good story and well written. The problem though is also that I feel like there's with romantasy, people, people that have not read it have a negative caveat about it, and society makes you feel like, oh, it's a silly female genre, and they're dismissive of it. And sometimes I wonder if maybe at least a little bit, a part of me feels like, is a little influenced by that. But I also am not anti-romance at all. Like, I still like a good romance. I just don't care for all the intimate stuff all the time. I love Bridgerton, but I'm probably not going to read the books. But at the same time, I don't want that. I see romantasy and, like, that's a turnoff for me. I don't want that to be, because it might actually be a good story. Because I think there are a lot of good there probably are romantasy books that are well written, have good plots and good characters. Like, I don't think romantasy automatically means a bad book. It just means a significant plot point is the romance, and the plot, and the character development and the characters might take a back seat, and the world building might take a back seat. But yeah, I heard that this was a romantasy, and of course, reading the back, yeah, there's definitely a romantic element. I already get the impression there's going to be a romantic element involved. But yeah, I don't want to immediately dismiss the idea just because it has a romance plot in it. Because I'm not against romance. I just don't want a story where they're so focused on the intimacy of a couple and so focused on their drama all the time. Like, even though I like Twilight, nowadays my tastes have changed, and I lean more towards stories where there's more going on than a couple and their drama. But like I said, the premise still sounds really good. But anyway, so this is the one I got from Books A Million. So yeah, I hopefully, and it's a fantasy, so most likely it's not going to be DNF, and I'm going to still enjoy it either way. So I got 3 books from Thrift Books. First we have, this is the 3rd and final book in the Under the Northern Sky trilogy. Last year I bought The Spider. I haven't read it yet because I wanted to get the last book first before I read it. Because I would have, when it comes to series, I'll read the first book, but then if I don't get I might not get the next book right away. I will slowly lose interest, even if I loved the book before when I first read it. Like, hopefully I get the sequel to A Natural History of Dragon soon. But it's kind of a Viking-inspired story. It makes me think of the story of Uhtred from Bernard Cornwell, which is a longer series, but the books are shorter. It kind of is similar to that with its premise. It's been so long since I read The Wolf, the first book, so I can't really talk about it because I don't remember. But I'm also not going to reread it. I'm just going to jump into The Spider and then read this one. Because I don't want to, because I feel like I have a bad habit of, I'll read the first book and then not read the next book right away, and then over time I forget about the next book, and it's a year or 2 later before I read it. But even if I have, and with trilogies, I have no excuse. I have all the books, and I do want to get more than one series read this year. Or trilogy, at least. So there's that one. And then the next book I got was it's The House of the Dead and Poor Folk by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I really like Crime and Punishment. I'm currently reading The Brothers Karamazov, which I need to finally finish that book. That's another one on the list of books I need to finish. And so Poor Folk was his first published work. And The House of the Dead was actually inspired by when he got arrested and was put into Siberia the Siberian prison camps. And actually, that's what happens in Crime and Punishment in that one as well. Like, the character ends up going to the prison camps, or there's a threat of the prison camps in Siberia. But I really like Dostoevsky. I very much enjoyed him. And I almost wish I had not gotten rid of Notes from the Underground by him, because that's another book I had by him that I did like. By the time I was thinking, I don't know if I'm ever going to finish it, but now years later, I'm having second thoughts, which that's what happened with Hard Times as well. I got rid of that because at the time, my initial reaction is I didn't love it. And I feel like if I don't love it, then maybe I should get rid of it and donate it to Gibbons or somewhere. But then sometimes with some of the books, I have second thoughts. Especially if it's an author where I'm trying to read all their books. But, so I got this one. And then, so the last one, this is actually the first one I got in the mail. But I want to save it for last. And that is a shortened modern version of Ramayana, which is an Indian epic. And I did not realize that this is the same Indian epic that Sarah Crew is telling her friends. She's telling them this story when she goes to the school in New York. And I mean, in this, like, that, so, which actually she's telling her own version of the story to this Indian boy that she's friends with, because in the story she's a girl who lives in India with her dad, and I think the woman might be the mother of the little boy she's friends with, and she kind of compares her marriage to her husband to the couple in this epic. So I guess this is an abridged version done in prose format, because like there was one reviewer said this is not the real version. You know, unless you just like, it's good for beginners just to get a taste of it, but if you want the real version, this is not the one to get. But it does come, I think, as a PDF. You can, online, you can get it for free. Or Project Gutenberg or somewhere. Which is not a reason to stare at a screen. At least you're reading something. So, I wanted to save this one for last because a couple years ago, I did what made me decide to get the original story is because I had got this a couple years ago from Gibbons. This is a retelling of the original poem. And I wanted to get kind of a taste of the original. And that was before I realized that the story that Sarah Crew is telling in A Little Princess was the same story. So I was already familiar with it and not realized it until now. But yeah, what I would like to do is read this between May and June, starting with this one and then reading this one. That's why I saved it last, because I wanted to talk about that. So that's how it is. That's how my reading is going right now. Any of you familiar with like Indian mythology? I would love to know if any of you are interested in that and have read any of this. I'd be curious. I mean, if you hate it or whatever, like I said, I don't want to know because I want to read it myself. Do any of you feel like you're influenced by Goodreads or even BookTube? Do you feel like you're influenced a little too much by it, or maybe, or like, granted, I think BookTube has pros and cons, which a lot of people are doing videos about that lately, BookTube and everything. I do agree, though, we ultimately control ourselves, and we ultimately make decisions about what we read and how much we read. But yeah, there's a lot of great videos if you're interested in that topic. There's a lot of great videos out there about, like, BookTube and, our reading and consumerism and all that. So I hope your reading is going well. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.